Alright, so in some recent news regarding AOC, she, as usual, says some pretty insane stuff. She says that if you are worried about the deficit, let's roll back that $2 trillion tax cut. If you're worried about the deficit, let's raise some taxes. Let's make sure Jeff Bezos pays what he needs to pay to contribute to this country. Now, it's been said so many times about Jeff Bezos and all other billionaires that you could take every last dime from them, force them to sell all their assets, which is impossible to do, take all that money, and you've barely scratched the surface of the debt, especially including the unfunded liabilities, which is upwards to $80 trillion. To think that the U.S. has a revenue problem and not a spending problem is just downright insane. You cannot turn a corner without paying some form of taxes. Everywhere you look, everything you do, the price you pay is inflated due to taxation to at least some degree. Hell, when she mentions Jeff Bezos and she rails against Amazon for paying no federal corporate income tax, she fails to mention the nearly $400 million paid by Amazon in payroll taxes. She never mentions the sales tax that is paid. She never mentions the capital gains tax that the shareholders have to pay, and you can bet that includes Jeff Bezos and plenty of other rich people paying huge sums of money to the government. So AOC should be happy. Amazon and those affiliated with Amazon are paying tons of money to the government, but she's not happy because she's either disingenuous or she has no idea what she's talking about. Either way, it's pathetic. Now, as I said, what's under the surface here is that AOC thinks the government needs more revenue. Cutting, she doesn't think, is the solution. Government needs to take more. Now, there might be one exception to this, though, and that's military spending. I think she and I would agree that the military needs to get cut. I mean, the Pentagon is so overbloated and irresponsible, just as any other government organization is. And that's the funny part. I'm still waiting for someone to show me this super lean and efficient government organization. It doesn't exist because they don't have to really care about being frugal or responsible. They're not using their own money. But anyway, we spend money in the military that is absurdly irresponsible. Thousands of dollars on cup holders that heat up the drinks of pilots, for example. We actually spend money on that type of stuff. It's ridiculous. Our military is like a 300-pound dude with 4% body fat that still takes steroids. You don't need any more. I think you're good to go. But beyond this, for AOC to have a discussion like this and not have cuts to be the forefront of that discussion is, well, not surprising because that would be an actual intelligible stance to take, which is pretty difficult for AOC, I think. I mean, here's the thing. We just found out that the U.S. had funded the Wuhan laboratory that the coronavirus might have come from. What the hell are we doing funding that laboratory? I mean, with or without the coronavirus, the only reason why any of us are now aware that we've been funding some Chinese lab is because of this virus. Otherwise, no one would have ever known their money is going to some lab in China, and I doubt anyone would want to voluntarily fund any labs in China. So AOC should have no credibility with any thinking person if she suggests we have a revenue problem. When there are such easy and obvious cuts to make, don't talk to us about raising taxes until you get your own house in order, because it is in chaos right now. And you know, this also reminds me of when those 4 U.S. soldiers were killed in Niger, and a bunch of members of Congress were left scratching their head because they had no idea we had any military presence in Niger. That's when you know we need to scale a lot of things back. It costs a pretty penny to deploy the military around the world, and when the leaders of the country are unaware of the military's whereabouts, that is a good sign that we are likely a bit overextended and we're spending a little too much money, I think. In much the same way, I am sure plenty of members of Congress just 3 months ago were completely unaware that we funded that lab in China. And unless they looked it up, I'm sure they're unaware that HUD paid, in just 2012, $1 billion to maintain vacant buildings. I'm sure that they're unaware that the National Science Foundation used $1.2 million in taxpayer money to study how playing World of Warcraft affects the brains of seniors. So AOC, you are out of your mind if you are going to suggest that spending isn't the issue when it comes to the U.S. government. That is just a baffling stance to take. And to suggest that the solution is to tax more so this unbelievably irresponsible and wasteful government can siphon off more resources, to suggest that that's the answer is an insult to anyone using their brain. But that is all for now. Like, subscribe, and share, and take it easy.